It's hard to contain your excitement when you get something you've really wanted. Like the gold standard in automotive protection, WeatherTech floor liners. With deep sculpted channels and laser measured for total protection in the front, back, and even up the sides.
Dad, you're going viral.
What? WeatherTech me.
So don't be shy, enjoy. Order your premium American-made products at WeatherTech.com.
In racing, obviously, speed is big, but going the distance is even more important, and it's doubly so in endurance racing. And that's why these drivers are going to try to do so today for the Porsche Endurance Challenge North America Series Round 2 here at Road America. I'm Joe Peak, joined once again by Ryan Marine, as we get ready to go racing for only the second ever race in this series. And Ryan, we have quite a large field out there with two different classes all building up with a weekend full of racing up to now.
Yeah, it's outstanding, isn't it? Just looking at this field down there in the pit lane, you've got the 911s, of course, in the GT3 class. You've got the Caymans in the Cayman class. How they overlap over the course of this 60-minute plus one-lap race is going to be absolutely fascinating to see. So, yeah, can't wait to get going. We've made the joke before that if you could ever get the driver coaches in the Porsche Sprint Challenge into a race, they'd put on a great show, and we're about to see that that's very much the case, because many of the names you will see taking part in this field are names you've seen in IndyCar racing, in sports car racing, in Australian supercars. We've got stars from all over the globe joining the series regulars here, and I can't wait to get going.
It certainly put on quite a show last time out at Circuit of the Americas, and it started off with a little bit of a bang, unfortunately. Let's hope we can get away without an accident down into Turn 1 for the start of this one. To win the race, you have to get past Turn 1, of course. You can't always win it in that first corner. You can see we've got that two different classes lined up out there at the end of pit lane. The GT3 Cup cars up there at the front, and then we've got the Porsche Caymans there in the back. They should be released pretty shortly here off on our pace lap, and then it's going to be 60 minutes of racing. They will have a driver change, as you heard Ryan allude to, with the co-drivers having to hop in. A maximum drive stint of 35 minutes is what you are looking for. And that, Ryan, is also one of the big talking points. This is not a series that usually has pit stops, so these crews will be tested as much as the drivers.
I think they look forward to that challenge. It's a chance for them to get more involved actively in the course of the race. We know how much work goes in before the race and after the race to prep these cars, make sure they're ready to go, but this means that the teams will have to execute. Now, it's not like they need to have the fastest pit stops. That's for a reason. The rules stipulate that everything has to be done within a prescribed time, so that way no one is rushing, no one has to buy too much specialty equipment. But that said, you still have to execute, get the job done in the pits, get those driver changes done to perfection, ultimately, if you're going to win one of these races.
Speaking of the equipment, there has been a lot of it that has been worn through this weekend. This track has certainly been one that has been punishing for the drivers. We unfortunately have lost a couple of teams for this race because for those that aren't aware, we have the Porsche Sprint Challenge Series, which is the main series that we usually run here, both in North America and the USA West. They are running a combined weekend, have had already 6 races so far, and some have unfortunately ended prematurely with them taking off. I suppose we should go through our starting order and take you through the grid. It's going to be Charlie Hayes Racing with Janson and Skier there on the inside of the front row, with Blake McDonald and Riley Dickinson for BR Racing in second. After that, MDK Motorsports with Boku and Estep there on third position. Washington and Sargent for the GMG car in fourth. Then we get to row 3 that sees Kwame and Burton sharing the MTK Motorsports GT3 Cup car. McIntosh and Thompson starting 6th next to them for JTR Motorsports. Shane Leathers and Kay Van Berlo will be starting in 7th. Scott Blend is going to run solo. You are allowed to do that for the Ruckus Racing team in 8th. Then in 9th is Charlie Hayes, also running solo with Lalu and Romano for JDX in 10th. Ryan?
Let's get to the 6th row of the starting grid. Just outside the top 10 overall, Eric Lapp and Carrera Cup frontrunner Alex Sedgwick will start in 11th. Mike Bim and Zachary Vanier, veteran and champion in this series in the sprint version in the past. They start in 12th. Row 7, Luke Fringe, just off the track from a race earlier in the sprint race with Connor Bloom and Joel Johnson and Darius Trinka making up row number 7. To the 8th row now, Josh Conley and Robert Todd for BR Racing join John Gilliland and Niels Meissner there in the 16th starting position. Row 9 on the grid belongs to John McInnes and Sean Tatum for Tatum Racing, while MTK Motorsports, Alessandro Chiocchetti, and yes, that Jan Magnussen of Corvette Racing fame set to join the grid there in the 18th position. How about row number 10? Nicholas Groombridge from Speed Sport Tuning driving solo alongside John Manship and Peter Toombs in 19th and 20th.
That takes us off into row number 11 with Walsh and Bresson there in the 21st position, along with Charles Craig in 22nd. A few of these cars, unfortunately, might not be actually getting to go to the grid. Clark and Hartog for Kelly Moss in 23rd, Golan and Prema in the 24th, a 2 Kelly Moss car row, along with Pelichowski and Davis starting 25th, Crines and McAleer in the RS1 car in 26th. Tristan Vautier alongside Chris Hutter for Ford Motorsports in 27th. Gawkey and Merrill sharing the 28th spot for Competition Motorsports. And then we've got Rob Walker for JTR Motorsports Engineering and Ian Porter starting off our Caymans. That's going to be the front row for them.
Porter, driving solo. Really exciting opportunity for him. Carolyn Conda and Alec Udell back in 31st. Chloe Chambers and Tillman Schmid starting in 32nd overall. That's row 16. Row 17, Joe Rizzo, Spencer Pompelli. Don't expect them to take the start. Patrick Dempsey and Patrick Long will start out in the 34th position. Rafa Martinez and Cameron Lawrence in 35th. Paul Bonderson, Johannes von Overbeck, don't expect them to start, unfortunately. Greg Herback and Paul Whiting will start 37th. And Kopczynski and Phil Garris, another one that I think is a late scratch. And towards the back, same can be said for Bill Finnick and Chris Hall and Alan Scalzo, not certain about his status at the start of this race as the field is in formation, Joe, coming up the hill, getting ready to get this hour-long endurance race underway.
Very much looking forward to this one. A split start, so let's begin with our GT3 Cup cars, almost literally nose to tail, pushing that orange machine up the hill there. I think that might be Bocuse in that car. Not sure who is beginning as the green flag is out, and Janson gets on the loud pedal to try and see if he can outrun the number 208 to his outside. They'll fly down into the first corner. Let's hope for a nice clean start for these cars as it is a long run to the checkered flag, and it looks like everybody is going to make it through. Let's go to the GT4s here, Ryan.
It is a separate start, of course, for the Caymans. Here they come across the line, and we have a big battle and a big collision on the front straightaway. 2 cars, 3, 4, 5 already collected, and this will go full course yellow, indeed likely a red flag. As many as 6 cars involved just as they came to the green flag for the Cayman start. Boy, that is unfortunate to see. So many cars will not get a chance to take part.
A huge hit. Let's hope that everybody's okay after that one. Lots of pieces strewn across the track. And even when it happened, I could see that there were pieces of the pit lane barrier that were moved back. So, yes, it likely will be an extensive caution or even a red flag to get those into the proper position. So the safety crews immediately trying to move over to the scene of the accident to figure out if everybody is okay or not. This gives us a good chance now, actually, to bring in our friend Laura Eli, who is joining us up in the booth. Laura, I have to imagine that's always your worst fear as a driver. You've been working all weekend towards this big event, and it's over before you even get to do the first corner.
Yeah, that's crazy. I been lucky in my race career not to be involved in any first lap incidents, but that one was really scary. And like you said, I hope everyone's okay. I couldn't really tell who was in there, but I'm sure we'll see once they start clearing the damage.
I think I saw Pelichewski as one of those involved, or Pelichewski's car, rather. We'll figure out which drivers are actually inside the machines to start this race here in a bit of a moment. Already they're sending the flatbed over to take care of things, but seemed like maybe somebody getting aggressive and trying to move over a little bit, that or someone jockeying for position. And just two cars got tangled once they slammed into the wall and bounced across. Everybody tried to scatter to avoid getting collected in it, but with everybody so packed up, it was difficult to stay out of it.
Well, and it started right at the very front of the Cayman field, too, which meant that two cars bouncing back and forth right in front of the rest of the field. Very difficult for those following to avoid it. There at the center of the screen, you could see how much that pit wall moved. Big impact there. That will need to be attended to, of course. Now we've got the field coming by, and everyone's stopping here as the track crew goes to work to try and clean up that debris field. And actually, this is pretty prudent to stop the field right here to make sure you don't run over any of that debris and pick up a puncture that could cause further issues down the road.
Yeah, so they're trying to do their best to make sure that this race isn't further compromised. Somebody, I think, may have managed to take off, because I see a lone car on some of our other cameras that is going through what looks to be turn 6 right now. So we'll try and figure out if someone was able to escape some of the drama without too much damage. And yeah, you can still see, Laura, that they're trying so carefully to make sure not to run over any big pieces they can see within the cockpit.
Yeah, I'm surprised John didn't have them go through pit lane on this and just continue that way. And whether or not they'll throw a red flag, it seems like they might, just to give them some time to fix everything. I was watching the back cars, and my teammate was actually starting behind this, and he kind of had to tiptoe through there, and glad he made it through okay. He had a slight incident earlier today and already had some damage on the car, so I know he's trying to be careful.
You know, a driver that could use some good luck this weekend is Rafa Martinez, and I think maybe he got it because, like I said, he's the car that is carrying on right now and is all the way to the back stretch. It's not going at full song, so I don't know if it's in completely good condition, but, I mean, at least he's able to try and drive it back.
Yeah, Rafa has had a tough weekend, had a crash on Thursday. They went above and beyond to source a replacement chassis. It arrived. Unfortunately, there were some mechanical issues with that chassis, so he was unable to take part in any of the sprint races, but they reshuffled their lineups around with the Rafa Racing Club entries so that he could take part in this, and it looks like at least he has a chance of continuing here today. Unfortunately, not the same for one of the team cars. I know I picked up Carolyn Conda's car that she's sharing with Alec Udell that was involved in that. Looked to me like the 19 RS1 car of Crines and McAleer also might have been involved, and I think possibly the 77, Tillman Schmidt and Chloe Chambers could have been involved in that one, among others. It was at least 4 or 5, as many as possibly 6 cars that I saw potentially involved in that coming together. You already identified Bill Pelichewski as one of those that got a piece of the accident.
Yeah, and it happened so far forward in the field, it's no wonder that we're seeing some big teams that wound up being collected in that incident. But this does mean those in the back that were able to avoid that wreck essentially get some free places to try and sneak through. And, in fact, Ian Porter, I think I'm seeing, managed to get through there. Greg Herback in the number 49 has moved up a number of positions. And, as I mentioned before, Rafa Martinez, I believe, in his 87 team car is managing to jump up a number of places. So there's definitely a few that are able to use this this bad moment for some other cars to try and make it a good moment for theirs.
Sounds like race control is likely to red flag this race, and that's not a surprise given the amount of cleanup that's going to be required just with the cars involved, but also, as we saw a few moments ago with that shot, the pit lane wall is likely going to need to be addressed because it is not flush at the moment there on the right-hand side, driver's right, coming down the front straightaway where the first big impact occurred, and that's going to likely need to be attended to. That could take a little bit of time. And unfortunately, we're already chewing into this hour-long race. You talked about it at the top, the importance of being there at the finish in racing in general, but endurance racing in particular. And a few cars won't have the chance to do that. Won't even see turn one.
I think that is the most gutting thing is, it usually, at least if you can get to the some competition out there, you can get some racing in, but yeah, they just got taken out on the front stretches. As you can see on our screens, it is indeed a red flag now, so drivers will pull down into pit lane, will go to a hold, and hopefully we'll be able to restart relatively soon. I don't think we have we gotten any information on any of the drivers yet? Doesn't look like it, so
we'll await news on their well-being until we have that. We won't speculate, of course.
Yeah.
But we hope for the best and hope for good news very soon. That was a big impact and certainly a scary moment. They are coming to the green flag for the Caymans at the start of this race. We should note that we did have a few laps, or not a few laps, a few corners of racing for the GT3 class, and Johnson was able to hang on to the lead. Bocuse went up into second. McDonald, McIntosh, Washington, the top five. Then Blind, Lalu, Kwame, Hayes, and Leathers, the top 10, when the yellow flag came out, and now the red flag waves here at Road America. Laura Eli from Black Sheep Racing joining us in the booth. And Laura, I know you had intentions of running here this weekend. You had intentions of racing in the endurance race at Circuit of the Americas as well, and events have conspired against you getting to do the amount of endurance racing that you aimed to at the start of this season. But this is a format that has your interest, yes?
Of course it does. And, originally I had planned to run with Ashley Freeberg, and she's, an awesome woman, an awesome racer. Currently, I think, third in the points in the North America Series. And unfortunately, in the second race for me at COTA, I made a mistake and damaged my car so that we couldn't compete. And then a couple months, it was about a month ago at Watkins Glen, she had her big accident and was still recovering from some injuries there. And she felt it wasn't physically good for her to double duty this weekend. And primarily I wanted, to be with her and hopefully Sabre Cook at the end of the season for the 6 hour. And Sabre also needs to have some surgery done before the season starts next season, in between the off season. So she called me and said she was unavailable. So once that kind of happened, I'm like, it just wasn't the same excitement for me. And as you know, there's a lot of money we spend to do this. And so I chose to save the money, and hopefully next year I can put together the same team.
Understandable for sure, but you do have a car from the Black Sheep stable out there. What's it like being in team owner mode here and doing so from outside of the race car?
Well, Greg is, he's very excited to start racing. I think you both know this is his first season, and he started the second event for us on the West, which was the Utah event. And he's done well. Unfortunately, we don't have quite the mix of cars on the West that they have in North America, but I know next season there's already a couple more entries of some people. I think Charlie Hayes is going to have a couple cars, maybe even for Sonoma. And so the field should get better for them, be a little more racing for all three of them currently. And, the AutoWorks team didn't come out this weekend, and those guys are all really good too. Eli Hogan and the other two drivers. But, it's a growing, I think Porsche's really focusing on the GT4 RS to have the un-BOP'd racing, like they have to have the BOP in the other series. So it makes it exciting, and it's a good start for, a lot of young drivers. And and all of us older drivers too. I started in a club sport, and here I am.
Yeah. Yeah, all the drivers I've talked to get a chance to run one of these Caymans unrestricted without having to be concerned with balance and performance. They say it's almost a totally different car. It's so much fun to drive, to have that power at your disposal.
Yeah, and unfortunately I haven't had an opportunity to drive one, and I had considered maybe running the 6-hour with Greg, but I'm not sure. I may still run the 6-hour, just depending on if I can find a couple other people that or women. I really want to do an all-woman team. We would be currently the only one that I'm aware of, so that was always my goal.
Well, from the pictures that we're getting, the good news is that it looks like they've got a loader of some sort that can move some of those concrete barriers at the pit lane to get them back into position. They've already got some people that have been looking them over, so should hopefully be well on our way to getting that back to where it needs to be. That 98 that you see in the center of the screen, next to Laura Eli's number 49 down there for the Black Sheep Racing. That 98 is the two Patricks with Patrick Long and Patrick Dempsey racing that car. And they've actually more than just come out just for the Enduro. They've been running in the North America Series so far this weekend as well. Ooh, there's some damage, though, on the front of that car. If you look here, Ryan, they definitely did not get out of that unscathed on that opening lap.
Is this the same chassis that they ran in the Cayman North America race earlier? That is one question I had, because Patrick was in the wars a couple of times over the course of this weekend in those sprint races. So maybe that's some of the carryover residual damage, or maybe he was right there in the thick of things here too. Hard to say. Certainly would have been right around that spot. Just about everybody starting up where they were had to get through that at one point or another. But you look at a lot of these cars, and they're wearing some battle scars here this weekend, Laura.
Yeah, and you know, I'm sitting here seeing that my teammate's sitting right behind Patrick Dempsey, and I feel like calling down to the pit box and say, hey, you need to follow them and try to get some pointers from Patrick in front of you. But, you know, the good news in this with the red flag is they did stop the clock, so they still have oh, no, they didn't. I thought they said in the driver meeting that they were going to stop the clock. I guess they chose not to.
There is the potential, I think, of adding some time back. We'll keep an eye on that, and we'll get some direction from race control on that subject, because this is the last event of the day, so that does give a little bit of flexibility to the rules makers for perhaps extending the race in order to get closer to an hour's worth of racing in. But yeah, we'll have to see how that ultimately gets decided. But pretty cool to have Patrick Dempsey here. That speaks to his level of passion. I know he doesn't get to race as much as he used to, understandably. He's a busy guy with the day job and all of that. But at the end of the day, he's a racer at heart, and he loves being at the racetrack.
Yeah, I had an opportunity to shake his hand, which was kind of cool. You know, sometimes you get that starstruck feeling when you meet people like him. But he's a really nice guy, and of course, I know Patrick Long just from being around racing, and he's great too.
He certainly is. I've heard him described from time to time as the best PR guy Porsche ever hired. Pretty good race car driver too,
yeah,
but great brand representative.
You know, he could jump into a 992 and probably be out front right away.
Right.
So, you know, we were talking about your involvement with the 49 car out here and you working with Greg Herback. How much have you been helping with coaching and guiding him in his journey into racing?
I've been helping some. You know, we have a local coach, Paul Whiting, as co-driver, and he's also been working with Eric Filgaris. And, you know, Thomas Merrill was my coach as I was progressing, and he coaches with Mike Galke pretty regularly, so I just try to help find good coaches that I've used in my career to help newer drivers. And of the two, I know Eric is his preference, but Eric sometimes is busy, and Paul's good too. But, you know, he asks for my advice, and, you know, he keeps making mistakes, which is part of learning. And you know, I told him my very first race ever, I got in a crash, so it's not unusual for people when you're learning that you just make those mistakes. And it's never easy because you always are hard on yourself. And being a competitive person which most of us are. I think that's why we do this in the first place. It's hard not seeing the improvement and, getting the trophies and being up front and. But it's just a hard sport. Randy Hembry always tells me it's not easy, and I found out this weekend my pace was not where I wanted it to be. I had a bunch of tough luck in testing. Only was able to run 3 laps on Thursday, and everyone else had done Wednesday, Thursday testing. But I still was able to do okay. I'm second in points for the West Masters group, and yeah, it's just a difficult sport, and just takes some time to really get good at it.
That's absolutely true. And have you seen have noticed progression for the few races that we've had Greg out here?
Yeah. Also, the first time he was in the car at Buttonwillow for a club race, and by the end of the weekend he had gained like 12 seconds over his lap time. So he progresses very well. For someone that's brand new, never been in a race car, and actually had only done like 4 months of DE or track days prior to him buying the race car.
What was his introduction to the sport? What got his attention?
I'm not sure. He just had a track day car that he started doing, and I think just being around some of the race cars at track days, out where we are, a lot of the racers will do track days just as practice, because there's no other test days, and I think it just got his interest, and he's at the point in life where he's comfortable enough to, and his little company, he has a paving company that does really well, and so he wanted to start using some of his profits from his business to have some fun.
Understandably so. Now, do I have this right? I've got it in my notes that you grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and grew up as a fan of the hometown team, the Unser family, right?
That's true. I did grow up in Albuquerque and followed IndyCar for a lot of the times that the Unsers were racing. And, it was really neat. When I met Lonnie, I was telling her my background, and she was pretty amazed about that. And I met her dad last year when we were here at Road America, and kind of told him my connection to the Unsers. And I worked with Mary Unser, which was Al Jr.'s sister. Didn't work with her, but she was one of our customers when I worked for my brother. We had a supply company, and she worked at an Infinity dealer, and Mary was one of their people. So, yeah, it's kind of neat. I finally got to meet Lonnie at Buttonwillow when she was testing for the Pikes Peak last year. She had I think she was running a Honda last year for the Pikes Peak hill climb, which she always does really well.
Well, it's
in
the blood.
Yeah, and of course that's the Unser Mountain.
That's right.
Isn't that what they call it?
Unser's Hill, I think, because they make it seem so easy going up there. That family going back generations, so much success going up Pikes Peak, one of the truly unique American motorsports events. So you had the lifelong interest in racing, but you came to it relatively late in life. How did you get started behind the wheel?
So that's kind of a funny story too. I as a race fan, which I still am, I was at Austin, I believe it was for the MotoGP, and at the hotel I walked out the door and I saw a GT4 street car in 2016 when they first came out. And I always liked the Cayman body style, and I'm like, I think I want to get one of those. And so I ended up buying one, and one of my employees at the time had done a track day, and I didn't know you could go take your car on the track. And so once I bought that car, I started researching, Hooked on Driving and PCA Club Drive, all of the ways to go run on track. And so I just started doing that, and I did like 20 weekends in a year.
Wow.
And after that, I was funny because the series that used to run in the West prior to Sprint Challenge taking it over was at one of the track days I was at. They had a session, and it was the club sports when they first came out, and I was like drooling over them. And Kevin Woods, my competitor now, was leading the championship in the club sport that season, and I wanted to be like Kevin, and so I bought one, and then I started racing, and I think I did 4 or 5, 6 club races that year, and I ran with Competition Motorsports, did 3 events in the old series, which was Porsche Trophy West. And then the next 2 years, I did 2 more in the club sport. And I don't know. I just got hooked. I always owned sports cars and drove too fast on the street. Now I don't drive fast on the street. I leave it for the track.
Yeah. Was Thomas Merrill somehow involved in getting you in a race car?
Well, not necessarily, but he was my first coach.
Okay.
That's also another funny story. We were at a track day, and Thomas was putting in some reference laps for me. And I don't know how familiar you are with the shock towers on the GT4, but I think from all the stress I had done so many track days that it finally just cracked. But it was while he was in the car.
Mm-hmm.
So I always blame Thomas that he broke my car. But what's funny is my friend that was with us had a club sport, and he asked me if I wanted to drive it. And once I got in it and drove it, I'm like, okay, I think I want a race car. So we got on the phone with Porsche, and they had one left. I think I got the last 2016 club sport that was in Atlanta. And I think a month after that, I went to COTA. And it was the big PCA event that they have there every year, the Lone Star Special or whatever they call it. And did the DE on the way back. I stopped at Buttonwillow with the Porsche Owner Club. And I did the Racer Clinic there, actually with Erin Vogel.
Yeah.
She was there with me, and she's a friend of mine, and she's done really well in SRO, and she's doing a WRL now. But, so I did the race clinic, and then I started racing right away. So I kind of did the dive-in head-first thing.
I should say so. And I guess if not for Thomas Merrill and a broken shock mount, who knows where you'd be today.
Yeah, and Thomas had coached me all. Like I said, he was been my coach for several years, and I attribute a lot of my success to his coaching.
Still under the red flag here. If you're just joining us, the accident happened coming to the green flag in the Cayman separate start, and at least 4, if not 5 or 6 cars were ultimately involved in that lap 1 accident. Good news is the pit lane wall, which had been moved, appears to be back in place. Now we're just attending to it appears fluid and making sure debris is off the track. But we've lost nearly 25 minutes of this hour-long race already. It's unclear, unless you know any more than I do, Joe, about whether or not anything could be done to extend this race. But for those drivers that were so eager to go, ready to take the start, now they have to sit and wait. Good news is the yellow flag has just been displayed, so the cars are going to roll back out. I think we have a red flag graphic, but looking at out the window at the flag stand, it looks like it's a yellow flag in hand. So that's step 1 to getting this race restarted.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think that might just be some sort of glitch in the timing and scoring, because they've sent the cars out, so I don't think they're going to immediately send it back to that red flag. So hopefully we'll get to go racing. I mean, ironically, this is pretty close to the length of the Sprint Challenge races. We'll see whether or not that does get extended. I was kind of checking to see whether or not we could find out what the situation is on the rules available to race control on potentially extending that. We'll see what we can dig up on that one in the meantime.
Yeah, I thought he mentioned something in the driver meeting about possible time extension, but that's going to come from John Maskey.
Yeah, we'll see what we can find out there. And currently the drivers with just over 35 minutes left to go. And, I really do hope they'll be able to extend it, because this also will obviously alter the rules. The rules on the driver time. So,
I think that is our intrepid pit reporter, Cortu, testing the equipment out for us. Maybe we're just hearing it, and you folks at home are not. But at any rate, we do hear him down there, so that's something.
Yeah, Cortu Josiah looking to try and bring us some stories on this one, as he's been up and down the pit lane. I'm sure he's gonna have a few at some point out there.
And I think he might have one now. So, Cortu, let's check in with you.
We're down here on the pit wall next to Eric from Yokohama. This is such a big weekend for us, and Yokohama does a lot of tires, so here just give us a little information about this weekend on get all those mounted.
Yeah, we had a great weekend. A lot of cars on track, and we have both the North America and USA West competitors out here, GT3 and GT4. So we brought 5 trailers with us this weekend, absolutely filled to the brim.
Apologies for the slight technical difficulty there, but it is a massive weekend for Yokohama, no question about that. You think about the fact that they were telling us by Thursday evening, that's just with testing, nothing official had even started yet. They had already mounted 1,000 tires just on Thursday.
Yeah, I know we got an email saying if they were going to use more than 7 sets that they needed to know. But
okay.
luckily,
Jeez.
I didn't use 7, I used 3, so that helps my budget.
Well, one of the advantages of missing a few sessions, I guess, if you're looking for a silver lining. But great partners, Yokohama, and they have been for a very long time.
Yeah. And in fact, they are fantastic because they have a special deal where they do the Porsche Sprint Challenge North America stuff specifically. So we're very, very grateful for their help in bringing this series to life and getting it off the ground. So we owe them a lot for all that they've done for the drivers and for giving us this awesome opportunity to get to see more racing throughout here. Looks like they're coming around now. I think we are going back racing because the pace car has now already released them. They've backed up, and Janson is getting ready to go here. So let's get racing for possibly about 32 minutes as they're out of the final corner, and the green flag is indeed out. It is time for the Porsche Endurance Challenge North America. Janson leads Bocuse with McDonald's in tow down into the first corner. They'll go through the oil dry, kicking up all the dust here on the front straightaway. This one's single file, so should be a little bit less frantic as Mim gets a little bit shoved out of the way.
Yeah, fighting there with Mark Kwame. Keep in mind the leaders, Janson and Bocuse, they were sparring in their sprint race earlier today, just a few hours ago. So those two have some recent experience going door to door through this section of the racetrack. Good restart, though, for the Charlie Hayes Racing driver Aaron Janson. He leads Paul Bocuse. Then Blake McDonald holds down that third spot as they roar into turn number 5.
Breaking down into the hill, McIntosh giving watch back there, just coming off of a win in his series earlier in the day. As things going a little bit wide for a few drivers farther back in the GT3 Cups. Thankfully, everything good down through turn 5. We've also still got those GT4s running. Clark leads Golan, leads Galki last time we checked in on them. So Galki with a great start to this Enduro.
One thing also to bear in mind is, assuming no time is added, and maybe it can't be because of what I'm about to say, we're brushing up against the maximum drive time already, assuming red flag time counts. So that's something we'll have to sort through here, but 35 minutes is the maximum stint length. So we're looking at just a couple of laps then from these drivers being forced to come in. There was a provision that could see that time extended, but I think that would be if a yellow flag hit at just the right time. So anyway, something we'll have to monitor here, but we won't be too terribly far away regardless from seeing the lone pit stop of this race.
Yeah, so from what I saw in the rules, the extension was only offered if there was a yellow when they were about to do the driver change. So if, for instance, it was 35 minutes into the race, the yellow comes out. And indeed, actually, we've already got some drivers that are willing to give up quite a bit of their drive time to try and get their co-driver in, including Bocuse. It looks like McDonald, McIntosh, Washington, as well as Blend. Now, Blend, remember, is doing solo, so he has a minimum pit stop time that he has to do just like everybody else, but he will be back out.
This is a big move up the inside there. I believe that's McGinnis making that pass, Gilliland rather, electing to stay out and make that pass. Janson stays out. That speaks volumes to this team's belief in his pace to continue to stay out there. There is a risk that you run if a yellow should fall here, though. Those that have made their pit stops already could potentially cycle through, so that's something that we'll need to monitor. But I thought that we might see this. Most of the teams elected to start their less experienced driver at the beginning of this race and then turn it over to the coach or the pro, or at least the more experienced part of the two-driver lineups. And I think that's why we've seen, once we've gotten inside the window where you could make that change and not have your second driver exceed the minimum or the maximum time, I should say, that they might elect to go ahead and do so.
So this is Lalu and Hayes fighting for what is now second position, but obviously they have not changed drivers yet, much like Janson. We should expect to see them in pretty soon. I think if they go by this time, they should have enough for one more lap through. It's going to be a little tight, but I think it should be doable. That said, I don't know. Actually, I'll have to see if they have a provision on what happens if they come to change the driver and they are in pit lane, but it's gone over those 35 minutes, because that could be an effect. It's that tight here.
And usually the pit lane transit doesn't count towards your drive time.
Yeah.
So I think you would be safe in that instance. But nevertheless, we'll keep an eye on this. Janson, by the way, shares his car with Elliott Skier, who is very rapid indeed. So interesting that they'd have Janson stay out. He's been quick this weekend, but Skier is excellent. He's a former champion in the predecessor to Carrera Cup, going back almost a decade now, and it looks like they're going to go ahead and make that changeover now. That lets Lalu inherit the lead. Luke French giving chase. This is a really good battle coming into turn number 1.
Certainly, and Therese definitely doesn't want to repeat what happened in the last time at Circuit of the Americas, where she was late into the car. This time she starts the car, and like I said, with it being close, they should have enough time. It's just they don't want to miss out on it for the second race in a row. Luke French in the 215 car, I think, was coming out of the pit lane at that time, unless he is actually sharing in this car that is currently chasing and might actually be leading by turn 6. Therese going slightly defensive into that corner. She wants to hold on to that lead now that she's got the top spot, at least temporarily.
Yeah, she shares that car with Nick Romano, who's waiting to jump in. Connor Bloom, the co-driver with Luke French. These are the top two right now, but they still owe us a pit stop, and they're going to need to get in pretty soon, or risk going over the maximum stint length, I would think, unless, again, that somehow has been extended. Anyway, questions that we will get answered. That's the Mark Kwame started car that is now being turned over to his co-driver, Gustav Burton, for the MDK team, and they rejoin the fray after their pit stop.
I love that they, with all the technology that we have, they still use the old school countdown by the fingers to signal when to release the car. So sometimes you can't afford to go to do too much more than the old reliable on that one. But Lalu doing a great job holding off French for the time being. Both of them needing to come in this time by with about 30 seconds remaining before they are outside of the pit window. So we expect them to dive in, and indeed, like we said, they are going to jump up into pit lane.
As anticipated, we'll see those driver changes. Laura, you've been monitoring timing and scoring for us. What stands out to you?
Well, it looks like Scott Blind left the box too early. There's a 3-minute bogey, and he came out 2 seconds early, so he'll probably get some sort of a penalty from that.
Yeah, good catch. We'll be on the lookout for that. That's unfortunate for Scott, who, again, driving solo here this weekend, but had a really good qualifying effort and started up in contention to have a very good day indeed.
Seeing that the 256 of Tatum is now our leader, with Therese having pitted in. So the Tatum racing car taking over temporarily while we wait for things to cycle around. Last I saw, Rob Walker leading, I think, in the Caymans, though I think that should switch around as well, because we're still seeing Ian Porter also out there in second, with Greg Herback in the third spot for them. But everything's very much in flux until we see cars flash across this start-finish line to give us the exact place of everybody who is still out racing. In fact, that was Porter that we saw in that orange Cayman that just went through turn 1, so he's finished his pit stop.
Exactly, and he stays in the car. He's driving solo, which was not the plan coming into the weekend, but as we mentioned earlier, the Rafa Racing team had to shuffle those lineups a little bit, and by all accounts, Ian's actually pretty excited about the chance to get to do all 60 minutes by himself and continue his development. He's been a really remarkable story over the course of this season. Checking in here, these are some of the front-running cars from before the pit stop. The car that Johnson started, and that's now Elliott Skier driving just now, going under the bridge at the top of the hill. It's a side-by-side out of class battle there as Romano is coming through. That's, I think, the car that Lalu started. I might actually be mistaken. That might have been the McIntosh car from earlier. And that changeover has now been made.
So for them, they are done with that, but they are hitting quite a bit of traffic from the Caymans in the meantime, and that is causing a little bit of consternation among the drivers. Also, I think that Zachary Vanier is the one chasing on Elliott Skier in
Correct.
the 270 right now, so he's hopped into the car.
Cool to see Vanier get the chance to do this. He's a veteran of Sprint Challenge. He's running in the Carrera Cup Championship this year. Really talented young man with a big future ahead of him. And a chance to measure himself against some excellent drivers with major pedigree in these GT3 Cup cars. We're watching Sean Tatum right here, who continues to lead. I believe this car still needs to pit, though. And then we're past the drive time. Again, unless that window was extended because of the red flag, we've had no information about that at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's up to 35 is the drive time. You're right.
Correct.
Unless
the
they
maximum.
added the 5 minutes on top.
Right.
So there may be a communications breakdown for this team, unfortunately. I wonder if the radio's not working or they just unfortunately are assuming that it is extended and nobody told them at this stage. So if I'm seeing it correctly, then that means that the 242 JDX car with Romano should be our leader because they have finished their stop.
Very interesting. So that would have been a very good pit stop. Was it too good? Nope, that was just excellent execution. Wow. So 3 minutes is the minimum, and they were at 3:06. Wow, most of those are up much higher in the 20s. So that team executed perfectly, and that's how Nick got out in front, getting confirmation that the 35-minute maximum stint length is in effect. There have been no adjustments to that. And so the 256, it appears to me, would be running afoul of those regulations at this point. We'll have to wait for that to sort itself out. And then it should be Romano cycling through to the lead, followed by Connor Bloom.
I think the other thing that helped that 242 team, remember, they stayed out. They led laps. They had clean air. Even when they were still behind Janson, that car was far away, so they could run their ultimate pace there. So I wonder if that also helped, because I was thinking about that we saw so many cars pit in. I wonder if some of them thought they were going to pit in to try and avoid the mess that we had, everybody so close together at the beginning, well, the sort of beginning of this race, and that could give them some clean air. But if everybody thinks the same thing, then everybody's still stuck in that traffic. So it worked out better for those who had the contra strategy.
I think that's part of it, but if you look at the pit stops, I mean, we're seeing some massive deltas. If your target is 3 minutes, the 242 did a 3:06, while some of the others were doing 3:22s and 3:10s and 3:25s. That's 16 or more seconds where you're moving and they're stationary, right? That's a big advantage gained, and I think that has gone a long way to explaining some of the shuffles in the order. Great job by the crews involved, that JDX team. No surprise to see Jeremy Dale's operation really on the ball, making sure that they find themselves in a position where they should come out in front here. A couple things still to get sorted through, as we can see there on timing and scoring, though.
Yeah, keep in mind that the silver-rated drivers had a 25-second extra time. So some of the ones that are 3:25 were the pro driver combinations.
Gotcha. Yeah, that does explain things.
Yeah, Blend is showing now ahead of Romano as well. Oh, and we got a lot of battles happening into turn 6. It is an absolute bee's nest into there. Will we get all the cars out the other side is the question. as unfortunately we don't get a follow-up shot of as behind them there was some more action heading down into turn 5 as well. There is that battle coming down. Janson, a part of that, or at least Janson's car that is now I had lost Skier now in that machine, who has taken over and trying hurriedly to make his way through while other cars are closing in behind.
Yeah, that's true. So Skier down at least at the last lap in 7th overall, but starting to work back up through this field. Look at this. This is a big group here running together in the run down to Canada Corner. The orange car, second in line, is Skier. He's looking at Darius Trinka, trying to find a way past. Couldn't make the pass that time, but looking awfully threatening here at the exit of Canada Corner.
Riley Dickinson close in behind, along with Trenton Estep, Parker Thompson, Alex Sedgwick. Not exactly a group of drivers I would want being right in my mirror at this stage. So no wonder Elliott's trying so hard to see if he can get by. He doesn't just want this position. He wants to be out of threat here.
Yeah, certainly so. A big thanks to Laura Eli for joining us at the beginning of the show here. She's going to head down and go back into team manager mode as we got a side-by-side battle. That is Skier sweeping around the outside of Trinka, moving up into 4th overall at the moment. But that actually would be for effectively 3rd, with Tatum still out on track and running afoul of the drive time rules as we understand them. So we'll keep an eye on that. But as Laura steps out, we've got Therese Lalu jumping in to join us. And I'll tell you what, Therese, you've got a lot to be excited about right now.
I am so happy to be back here in the booth with you guys. It's
That's
always
not what
a pleasure.
I meant. I was talking about your car.
But yeah, super excited to see Nick Romano in 3rd place. We switched up the strategy for this one. Usually I drive 2nd. We had a good delta, but with how many heavy hitters were out there this weekend, I didn't think I could pull another Coda and keep all of them behind me. So we elected to stay out there. But that red definitely shook things up. So hoping to see Nick, test his mettle against some of the best in the world.
Well, it's worked out beautifully for your team up to this stage. We'll see if he can chase down Scott Blend, who we understand is on the same strategy at this point. Darius Trinka also going to play catch-up here in just a moment, because certainly that's a lot of fast drivers all in a line, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th down in the GT3 Cup class.
Blend is on the same strategy, but he came in under the 3 minutes in his pit stop time, remember? Laura pointed that out. So we haven't seen anything about that yet, but as we understand it, that could be a penalty headed his way before this is all said and done. We'll keep an eye on that for the moment, but it is a lead on the road effectively when you factor out the Tatum car that still is yet to come in and make a pit stop.
Yeah, we had that issue with drive time last time. It can be really tough, to see where your car is on track, especially with radio transmissions. But what's something that's really interesting about this Porsche Endurance Challenge is that drivers can elect to run it solo. So we have people like Scott Blind, people like Charlie Hayes, who are out there running it solo, and they have the same advantage that the bronze drivers do. So someone like Scott Blind, who was racing here last weekend and put in a full week this week, I kudos to him for the energy. I'm quite a bit younger than him, and I'm feeling it. So just so proud of these guys for staying out here in these conditions and just continuing to turn awesome laps. Love racing Scott. Had a great time with him today.
Speaking of drivers that are doing it solo, so is this guy right here, Ian Porter, who is leading in our GT4 Cayman class. Merrill's the one trying to play catch-up. I'm showing it's about 3.5 seconds between them. That's a decently healthy lead, especially with 14 minutes left to go.
Showing that Thomas Merrill is also half a second under his minimum 3-minute pit stop time. But Thomas Merrill is a silver driver, so I'm wondering what's going on there if he somehow got classed as a bronze. Former second place Le Mans finisher.
As a bronze, coincidentally.
As a bronze, but Thomas coached me at Barber.
Yeah.
He's a really awesome guy. He actually coached my coach and brought him up. So definitely a part of the Thomas Merrill family. Going to be rooting for him, although Ian Porter is my teammate. So always love seeing Crim6 do great.
And he is, at the moment, just turned his fastest lap of the race. The last time by was marginally quicker than Thomas Merrill as well. I think Ian really looking forward to the chance to test himself against some of these big names like an Alex Prema, Luke Hartog, the points leader right now in Carrera Cup, who's in this car, Patrick Long, just some of the big names, Thomas Merrill too, racing in the Caymans at the moment.
It's so awesome to see Ian lapping as fast as these guys on his first year driving. You know, it just goes to show how strong sim racing is, and that iRacing background, his Call of Duty background. I've gotten pretty close to Ian over the course of this year, and he's a little bit longer in the tooth. You know, he's 30, so just to see him come in and switch careers like this, you know, I'm so inspired by him. I hope one day I can be like him.
I'm not sure how long my teeth are then.
I saw you skateboarding.
Yeah.
I think you're still quite short in the tooth.
Okay. Well, I do want to note that the 215 car was given a penalty for a short pit stop. That's plus 2.74 seconds for them. That's Connor Bloom.
Looks like he was 2.5 seconds short as well.
Yeah, so that's what they're going to dish out to them. He's sharing that with French, which was the car that was chasing you actually out there a little bit earlier, but they're no longer on the back of that 242 machine.
You know, I got to give it to my 242 machine. She's a little long in the tooth herself, you know, having been through Carrera Cup Asia before I got my hands on her last year to run the USA West Series. Just goes to show how strong these Porsche machines are, and if you do the recommended maintenance and they, you know, take really good care of our gearboxes and engines and keep these machines going strong. Great battle over here in the midfield between Darius Trinka, Riley Dickinson, and Trenton Estep. This is going to heat up nicely.
It is. So Skier was able to get by Trinka, and you could see him trying to scoot away there in the orange car. It's Trinka in the red-nosed, white-backed Porsche that leads that trio that's following Elliott Skier through. Riley Dickinson, former Carrera Cup champ, Trenton Estep, who's got tons of experience in these types of race cars himself over the years. They're putting the pressure on, but Darius is doing a great job holding his own.
Yeah, Elliott Skier, GTD, you know, GTD driver along with Adam Adelson for Wright Motorsports. They are incredible drivers, both of them. And so just to see Darius holding them off, Darius does not necessarily have as much experience as some of these guys. He actually wrapped my car. He wrapped Joel Johnson's car. He's known for making a lot of these cars look as great as they do here in the paddock. And now great to see him holding off, again, some of the best in the world.
Well, that is definitely allowing Elliott to just kind of get away. But the bad news for Elliott is that the pace, though slightly quicker than Romano, is, I don't think, enough to try and reel him in with the gap that they have at this stage. That fast pit stop definitely helped the 242 car out tremendously in this event. Again, we don't know whether or not Blend will hold on to this lead. We have not seen anything from race control yet about their pit stop. Now, our timing and scoring might not be accurate. We'll double check and see if we can get anything about that. And so it could be a case of Romano does still have to chase and pass the 245.
He's closing in, that's for sure. We've seen that lead go down by a second on the last laps, and you could see visually that that gap is closing. It's Blend in that yellow car out in front, and Romano right there, hanging tough, closing in. I guess there's a little bit of traffic in between.
Yeah.
Looks like Elliott and Parker Thompson have a little something extra. They're putting almost a full second on everyone else out there, a lap. And so it's just interesting to see how that extra experience in the Porsche is really paying off for them.
I spoke too soon. It must have been when Skier was making that overtake that he was only a tenth quicker than Romano. And you're right, that was significantly faster that time by. But the gap between them being about 9.5 seconds with 10 minutes of racing. We have to remember it's 2 minutes per lap, so we've only got about 5 laps for him to reel them in.
Yeah, with 1 second a lap, looks like hopefully Nick can keep that lead. Nick has raced here many times with WRL with the Palomar BMW machine, so definitely has a lot of experience in traffic here, so hoping to see that shine.
Spent all this time watching this battle in the GT3 Cups. I know we have checked in on Ian, but I feel for the GT4 drivers who've kind of gotten outshined a little bit for some action on track. Thomas Merrill currently running second in the 99 Competition Motorsports car, and Rob Walker for JTR Motorsports Engineering in the 53 doing excellent, sitting on a podium position for this race if things stay as they are. Walker having a pretty good weekend thus far, especially a little bit better than what he had last endurance weekend, where unfortunately one of his cars had a failure on the front stretch and he had a hard hit with the wall before they even got to the racing.
Yeah, Rob's someone that I really love racing with. He's love that Herbie the Love Bug livery, and
Me too.
We'll see if Thomas Merrill gets this penalty, and then maybe Rob Walker will inherit that second spot. But again, kudos to Ian Porter for keeping it there in the top spot with no penalties.
Great execution for sure from that team to put him in that position, and then he's done what he's needed to do behind the wheel. You talk about races that stopped almost before they started, and that's what we had here today. Therese, you were in the car during that long red flag. What did you do? Did you take a nap?
No, it's honestly seeing Carolyn Kanda there, my teammate. I think the only other woman out there was just really heartbreaking to see her put out of the race so early. I know that she was really looking forward to being competitive. All of us came out of the Porsche Driver Development Program super competitive, I have to say, after doing that couple of days with the juniors and with the female program over at Yokohama and Team Penske. Everybody really brought a little something else. You saw Carolyn Kanda put in an awesome performance to get that third. You see Lonnie Unser launching into that second place position. Sabre Cook with an awesome Carrera Cup race. Madeline Stewart with her best yet finish. So just kudos to all of these women out here who really took that development and ran with it. And so I'm just really heartbroken not to see Caroline get to show off a little bit here today.
This has now closed in to where there is no longer a car between Romano and Blend, so the penalty might not even matter. Last time across the line, it was 1.5 seconds. That is absolutely not 1.5 seconds. I mean, you can see right here it is about a car length between P1 and P2 in the GT3 Cup class. They'll come around up the hill with 7 minutes remaining. Romano does not want to leave this one to chance. It looks like he has his eyes set on getting in front on the road.
Is out there chasing down the leader on track. His teammate sitting next to us here in the booth looking surprisingly calm. You know Nick well. Take us into his mindset. What's he working on right now?
I'm sure Nick is wants to race really hard, but also wants to bring my baby home safe. So, you know, as they say, unless you show up with a briefcase full of cash, you might not be, willing to take some of those riskier moves. But I think that Nick and Scott, this should be a good battle. They're both really clean racers. I had some really awesome racing with Scott earlier. I don't foresee any issues. Even should they start to battle, they'll both be really respectful. Just keeping an eye on Elliot Skier, that's where I'm getting a little nervous. Just, keeping an eye on him. He did slow down just a little bit. Last lap was a 10.0 and then a 10.1. Although Nick went from a 10.5 to an 11.2. So it looks like everybody's slowing down just a touch out there, but Nick is coming in striking distance, so Scott better watch out.
You bring up a good point, because it was the reversed roles back in the race earlier, where it was Blend behind your car and actually fighting for his win in class. So you two not obviously fighting for position, but this one is for all the marbles, so a complete change in dynamics in many different fashions.
And I was really conscientious of that. I knew that if Scott got too close to me, Rob Walker would also make a move, and I didn't want to get trained. So I actually spoke with Scott before the race, and we kind of hashed it out a little to make sure we wouldn't get tangled too much. We went too wide through a few corners, but we're able to keep Rob Walker behind us, and I was able to start closing in on Geis.
So as we watch down the kettle bottoms here, it's getting close. It is getting very close. I wonder if we might find ourselves with a pass down into the corner, down to the inside. Romano in Canada corner. Fantastic stuff. So we're going to have a new leader at the line. Scott Blend could not hold them back. That can take.
I can't breathe.
We have the teammate to our current leader with us in the booth with Therese Lalu, perhaps getting to maybe cheer her team on to a first victory of the season in any of the series.
But, guys, just to insert some jeopardy into this, we're getting word this car, the 233, is actually the race leader. They just don't have a working transponder at the moment.
That actually makes sense to me, because he ran solo. He was right behind me coming into the pit box. I tried to build as big of a gap as I could to him, and I had maybe 2 or 3 seconds on him, but that extra 6 seconds in the pit box really, really hurt us. I think I called the baller just a second too late, so if that's my fault, I'll go ahead and apologize to Nick Romano for that. But maybe he can chase down, I believe that's Charlie Hayes.
It is, yeah.
From Canada, former Flying Lizard driver. He's extremely competent. I was able to open up a bit of a gap on him, so I think Nick might be able to close, but with only 2-3 laps to go, it's going to be tough.
And with a working transponder on Charlie's car, it's hard for us to give you a sense for lap times and how they compare over the final run here to the checkered flag. But a big thanks to the folks at Race Control for alerting us to this situation. So at least we know that it is the 233 of Charlie Hayes out in front. Here's a side-by-side battle for the back of the pack.
And who is that in John Gilliland's car?
As they go up into turn 6. Oh, they're almost rubbing fenders as they head through there. And we'll see whether or not Gilliland's car will come out ahead.
Niels Meissner, actually,
That's
from the
right.
991 class, our current points leader, I believe, in the 991 class, sharing the car with John Gilliland. So great to see 2 Sprint Challenge drivers sharing the car.
Yeah, that was fantastic. That's 11th and 12th overall. A little bit further back, but Vanier, a driver with plenty of Sprint Challenge pedigree himself, right there getting stuck in and charging up through this field. That the order has shuffled around a little bit behind Elliott Skier as of late, and we have a couple of updates for you. Some of those short pit stops now, we have some updates on. So the car
245, which is Scott Blend, has an 17.79 second penalty. Car 275, which is...
That is,
Sorry,
I was just looking that up. Yeah, no, that is Ford Motorsports. So
Kai Van Berlo.
Kai Van Berlo also with a 17.2 second penalty, as
Yeah.
well as car 99, which I believe is Michael Gawke and Thomas Merrill have that 25 second penalty for the short pit stop. Like I said, looked like it was a little bit short on that pit stop.
And that's the second place car in the Cayman class, so
that
big implications.
That pushes Rob Walker into second
Yes.
place and Luke Hartog of the Carrera Cup fame into the podium position.
Wow.
Nick Romano is chasing down Charlie Hayes. Let's see what shakes out here.
But they crossed the line with, I believe, 2 laps to go. So it is coming down to it with 1.4 seconds to make up. Last lap, the difference between the two of them. Actually, we won't know the difference because we don't have
the transponder, but Nick is closing in turn 6. So if he gets a good run out of the carousel, Charlie could be a little bit slow in the carousel. So if Nick has a good run out of the carousel into the kink, we could see some action in Canada.
Oh, this is fascinating. What a run it has been from Romano. Had to chase down and pass Scott Blend. Managed to do that. Now with precious little time left, the 242 sees the likes of Hayes up ahead. That car, having had a great pit stop and on the same strategy, waited long, just like this 242 car did.
This is the Therese Lalo I was waiting for and expecting in the booth. Now she's dancing around.
I am jumping up and down. Go, Nick, go.
We need to have Mike turn on our camera behind us to show people her hopping around. She is just a ball of energy right now to see this car potentially taking a win, if not at least a podium on the cards here today. White flag going to be displayed next time by. There's a little dip into the dirt from Hayes as he comes up into Bill Mitchell Bend. That cost a little bit more time.
That gap has disintegrated, so this is going to be a really exciting final lap for this podium position. Again, Scott Blend does have that 17.79 second penalty, which means that Elliott Skier will move into the second place, and Riley Dickinson will inherit that third place spot on the podium along with Blake McDonald, my former teammate from the West Coast.
1 to go from the flag stand. Will we see a change of position for the top spot in the GT3 Cups? We've already seen a little error from that leading car. Will there be any more that could open the door for Nick Romano? Hayes.
We've got lap traffic here coming up. This could shake things up. We've got a Cayman in the way. Looks like he's moving a little bit slow.
I think that is Herback and his teammate's car. Herback has hopped out since, and now we need to check our sheet to see who is in that machine at this stage. But they come down. Oh, and this is definitely balking Hayes a little bit here. Romano getting ever closer. He's going to stay off to the side. Almost gets shoved off the track
Cayman
in the
drops
process.
too outside. Whew. So here we go one more time, heading down through 7, really fast right-hander into turn 8, where all those rumbles knock your pads back, and you got to give it a little jiggle here to get that pressure back. Nick definitely keeping the pressure on Charlie Hayes as we enter the carousel complex and go under the Johnsonville Bridge.
The 233 is feeling it. Hayes knows that this is going to be one of the best opportunities. A new team that's been brought out here. Charlie having worked so hard for this, and now he might be able to give the team a win right off the bat as they come through the kink and towards Canada Corner. This is where Romano made the pass before on blend. Will it be another one down into what is usually the last great opportunity to try and make a pass? It looks a little too far back this time, though, for the 242. Hayes still holding on, coming up to Bill Mitchell Bend. Just needs to be clean through this and turn 14, and that is going to be a win in our endurance challenge here at Road America.
It's not over till it's over.
Good.
We still got the run to the flag, but I think you might be right. Let's see how this shakes out and down the front straight.
He's a
little too far
up
back
to the finish line here, and it looks like Charlie Hayes is going to take victory in the GT3 Cup. Romano with an excellent podium, and with a penalty, Blend is going to get bumped back as Skier comes across the line, not too far behind, and should inherit that podium position. Now, where is our leader, Ian Porter, down in our GT4s? Let's try and see if we can find him as the rest of our Cup cars head towards the line. Last time we looked, it was a healthy gap of about 3 seconds for the orange and white Rafa Racing car.
He had Thomas Merrill hot on his heels, but there is a penalty coming for Merrill. We'll keep an eye on that. Shouldn't be too much longer, though, as we await the leader in the Cayman class.
Yep, we see a number more of our cars cross the line, finish what was going to be a 60-minute race. Unfortunately wound up being more in the realm of about 33 minutes in the end with our extensive red flag. But we'll say goodbye to our friend Therese Lalou, who is going to go celebrate with her teammate here. Thank you for joining us,
Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm going to go pop some champagne, but congratulations to everybody.
Have fun. Congratulations on the podium to Therese Lalou. Interesting, we mentioned Charlie Hayes winning. It's a double podium for the team because Elliott Skier and Aaron Johnson in the team car will be shown in the third position. There goes the Cayman class across the line. Ian Porter gets the job done. Thomas Merrill hot on his heels, but Thomas Merrill, we believe, does have a penalty yet to serve.
If it wasn't for that penalty, it would have been a 1/10 of a second between them at the end of this race. I'm not sure if they've told Thomas. I'm sure if he isn't aware, he thought that he was that close to maybe getting a victory. But Ian Porter going solo on this one and coming away with the victory. And in fact, I'll need to double check on who took our win back in the first round, but definitely will make him happy to bounce back from that one and come home with a win.
Well, that was quite the exciting race. Unfortunately, got off to a difficult start with that first lap crash coming to the green flag that took out a lot of contenders, quite frankly, in the Cayman race. But once we got going again, it was immediately into the pit stop shuffle. Some teams got it right, others did not. And at the end of the day, Charlie Hayes, driving solo, picks up the victory, narrowly fending off Nick Romano's charge late in the race. Romano shown as the winner on the side of the screen there, but there was a non-functioning transponder for Charlie Hayes. He picks up the race win overall. Then we see Elliott Skier just behind Nick Romano. That will be third place on the day. Riley Dickinson and Trenton Estep a nice charge. Same for Parker Thompson and Thomas Sargent. Darius Trinka faded late but put up a great fight there just around the top 5, ultimately settling for the 8th position when you factor in Charlie Hayes. A few penalties that will have to be dealt with as well in the finishing order. And then Ian Porter picking up the hard-earned win in the Caymans. With the penalties factored in, Luke Hartog comes home in second. Rob Walker does get that podium. He ends up in the third place ahead of Alexander Prema and Patrick Long, with Thomas Merrill, after the penalty is factored in, just behind. So that's the way this one comes to an end. Very soon we'll have a chance to celebrate On the podium, the second ever Porsche Endurance Challenge North America race has come to a close, and a few moments from now, we'll head down to the podium and Joe Peak for our podium celebrations.
From the countryside to the Broadway lights, it's a miracle. Sipping cold Coors Light on a Sunday night, it's a miracle. It's real as hometown pride, it's some apple pie, it's a miracle. And with an open mind, we can live our lives in America. Damn, I love America. Up every morning, go to work. Sunday, the day we go to church in America. Always been the one to do it first. We the greatest country on the earth, it's America. 'Cause in the USA, we work as hard as we play. We are all one and the same. I'm in love with America. From the countryside to the Broadway lights, it's America. Sunday night is a miracle. It's real as hometown pride, it's some apple pie, it's a miracle. With an open mind, we can live our lives in America. Damn, I love America.
A frantic 60-minute endurance race has come to a close, and now it's time to recognize our podium finishers and class winners. There to begin the festivities is our own Joe Peak.
In second, driving the number 17, Michael Clark and Loic Hartog. And another solo effort team for our winner in the number 86, 3 on the weekend, Ian Porter. Congratulations, Ian. I wanted to ask you, with all 3 races this weekend, you knew you had a lot of effort, but you didn't know until late that you were going to be doing solo. Did you feel prepared for having to deal with that?
Yeah, a little bit. I was expecting a couple of yellows. Was not expecting that huge crash that happened. So I think everyone's all right. Is that correct?
We haven't heard official word, but we haven't heard any bad word yet. So
yeah, that happened right in front of me. So it was a weird feeling just going throughout that whole race, just watching. That was like the first major wreck I've ever seen. So, yeah, kept my head down, turned off the emotions for a little bit and just drove as fast as I could.
Well, as fast as you could gave you a win out here. We've got 2 more of these endurance races coming up with Sonoma and with Circuit of the Americas. Do you feel good about your chances getting some more?
Yeah, I think we might have to change our strategy to doing the solo driving. Sorry, Alec, wherever you're at. Yeah, absolutely loved it. I felt like that was, to me, what I was looking for in the endurance challenge, and, it was amazing.
Confidence in his own abilities. Congratulations to our winner, Ian Porter. And why don't we have some fun by spraying the champagne? Congratulations to our Cayman podium finishers for the Endurance Challenge here at Road America. That now brings us to our GT3 Cup category. Starting with 3rd place finisher in the number 250, it's Aaron Janson and Elliot Skier. Then, with an impressive drive at the end, pushing through in the number 242, Therese Lalu and Nick Romano. And another solo effort for our winner. Driving the number 233, it's Charlie Hayes. Charlie, fantastic work out there. I don't know if you were aware, but we actually weren't even sure that you were going to be the winner because you had a transponder issue. So it wasn't until the final few moments that we realized that you were going to win. How soon did you realize that you had the win on this one?
Well, I figured that out when I'm here talking to you. So, yeah, here we are. We kept the radio pretty quiet. I mean, it's fine. So, yeah.
So,
I do have a lot of people to thank, though. So, first off, it's everybody here for CHR, family, the crew. We've got some crazy, amazing customers that make this whole thing possible. So I wouldn't be standing right here if it wasn't for my customers, because I can't do this without them. So we got Paul Bonderson, who's been on this podium a couple times. We got Matt Dusick, who's the car owner for that orange 250, which put Aaron on the podium a handful of times. And then again, right here, we got Reinhold Kron, who had an injury, and he actually had to go back to Canada. And since we, finished third at COTA, and, we want to go for the championship, he said, go for it. So I got to thank Reinhold, obviously, with Revel Motorsports, Purpose Investments, and everybody. But Porsche Motorsport, can't do it without them. Yokohama, USAC, everybody. I mean, this is absolutely amazing. So, yeah, thanks.
With the team this weekend and you having all that to deal with, is this an emotional victory for you?
I mean, yeah, but I'm doing it for everybody here, so you can't show that. So it's been a long, long week, and you kind of black out on the week because this week's actually really sucked, and with other stuff outside of the racing, and here we are. So we can't make it any better.
Oh, well, just the icing on the cake for our winner here today, Charlie Hayes. And we get one last time to enjoy this weekend's spray of champagne. A huge congratulations to our podium finishers for the Porsche Endurance Challenge Race 2 here at Road America. As we said before, we've got more coming up this year, both with the Endurance Challenge as well as North America and USA West when we go to Sonoma in a few weeks' time. I'm Joe Peak. Race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.